So as usual, we are here gathering to practice meditation. And cultivating our mind. In the practice, first of all, we have to sit in a comfortable position, in a quiet, conducive for the practice, less distractions, and no other activities that you are doing. And once you have seated comfortably, we have to have the meditation object, and that is known as the nimitta or a nimitta, or known as the sign to contemplate on. It's called parikamma nimitta. And once we have this sign or the object of a meditation, then we constantly develop or cultivate ourselves to be mindful of that object. It's called a parikamma bhavana. So that bhavana is parikamma bhavana basically means we are repeatedly doing it again and again to pay attention to the object that we have chosen. It's called parikamma nimitta. So that's why it's called, in the practice of a meditation at the beginning, we have to have an object, and we have to have this motivation or so-called cultivation of our mind to pay attention to that object again and again. So it's basically redoing again and again, revisiting again and again, revising again and again, until this object becomes sustained in our mind, until this object becomes so easy to be concentrated, so easy to be mindful of. And when we are doing it together, working together, an object, and cultivating, basically paying attention to it again continuously, our concentration develops, mind becomes sharp and concentrated. So that is the reason when you meditate, always given an object to pay attention to and work with it. And this object of a meditation, or a sign of a meditation, sign of this object, becomes the mental object. Mentally we can see it without any pressure. That is known as mental sign, and that is known as parikamma patibhaga nimitta. So there is this object, when so familiarized, mind becomes so used to and familiar with the object. Whenever we meditate, or whenever we are not meditating, but we have a free time, and mind just wanders off, and we will be able to bring this mind back to this object so easily without any pressure. It's easy because it's been trained. It's called patibhaga nimitta. The mind has been fully trained, in a kind of intermediate trained, a kind of a horse being trained, domesticated, and now just need to train this horse a little bit more to go on a tournaments. And as I have given this simile of a training the horse, wild horse is like training our mind. When we train the horse, we walk along with this horse until it's become a familiar, and we can ride on and able to domesticate it. So similar to this mind too. The object, meditation object, is needed, and we cultivate our mind on it. And until this become so familiar, and later we attain, it's known as the attainment concentration, appana samadhi. That moment our mind has been fully developed. And that moment, then we will again experience different signs and different nimittas. And this moment, what we have to understand, or what we have to have the right attitude in the Buddhist practice, Buddhist meditation. So first, right understanding about the Buddhist meditation is that knowing that everything has to change. Doesn't matter what. And knowing the object of a practice of a meditation. So each person experiences nimittas, that is true, but the nimitta itself is not true. So that needs to know, that needs to develop. So we will not have so-called upadana, the grasping. So, practice of a meditation, we have to have an object, and we cultivate our mind, but have to have a right understanding that we are not looking for something, we are not looking for difference, or we are not practicing to be different, but we are practicing to understand things as they truly are, which means everything changes. Everything must change, and everything is changing. So any experiences of a nimittas are true, but not true on it itself. First, we experience the nimitta, and the more we pay attention to it, the nimitta become shinier and shinier, clearer and clearer. And that simply we have a perception of being with it and having it, and grasping on that. So that's why when we practice, experience of these signs and symbols are good, that energize us to practice, but we shouldn't stuck with it, and we shouldn't play with it. Simply know and pass through. So that's why when we practice, the experience of anything is true, but experiencing anything that we have experienced is not true. It has to change. Our perception change, our mind change, breath change, abdomen change. What is unchanged is our grasp. So this is what needs to be understood clearly. And once we have attained in that state, what we need to understand, even the 4 foundations of a mindfulness, the Buddha clearly instructed in the 4th, the Dhammanupassana, when mind is experiencing these signs and symbols, know that we are experiencing it and let it be, let it go. Understand, realize, and release. So working with the object that you have been working on, and making sure that you are not mixing or pick and mix, diligently and with your dedication, you are fully committed and working with that object continuously until you find the true of it. Whichever technique you have been practicing, you have to make sure that you have known it. And after that, you are changing, if you wish, according to the temperament of yours. But tonight, let's work with that, as I have said, using the object and cultivating your mind by paying attention to it, revisiting it again and again until you become familiar with that, whether you are meditating or whether you are not meditating. Particularly when you are not meditating in your day-to-day life, whenever you are free, whenever you feel down, whenever you feel confused, that moment, if your mind simply comes back to that object, then that's pretty good. So we are simply training to be in that state of the mind. So continue practicing for about a couple of minutes before we practice the loving kindness. In this time, make sure you're diligently practicing. You don't have to look at the screen. If you're practicing at home, you can simply close your eyes and follow your primary object, whether the breath or the abdomen, and working. Just try to be familiarized with. Make the mind have a friend. So relax yourself. Now practice the loving kindness meditation. Feel the sensations throughout the body. And bring your attention to your heart. Feel the beating heart. And generating loving kindness and compassion to yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be at peace. May no harm come to me. May I not harbor any hatred and jealousy and free from it. Similarly, sharing loving kindness and compassion to all other sentient beings, whatever beings there are, sending loving thoughts, goodwill, whatever beings there are, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be at peace. May they be free from all kinds of suffering, mental and physical. May no harm come to them. Whatever problems they have, may they be free. If they are already well and happy, their well-being and happiness increase. All beings be happy. Respect.